Kids of back in my day parents, what's the most annoying thing they ranted about? The 50s were the best. My dad was born in 1958. I was born in 1999. Gonna end up saying 90s were the best. The most annoying thing to me is how my parents complain that nobody, from my community, speaks our native language anymore. They say back in my day, everyone spoke our language and today none of you kids can. Guess what? The adults never taught it. It wasn't used in the homes. So how the hell are we supposed to learn it? And then I have people from the home country call me and speak and I'm like, I barely understand. I can speak better than my siblings, but not that much better. And they yell at me. Don't blame me, blame my parents. And my parents and my friends' parents, they can all blame themselves and not their children. My mother would try and claim my siblings and I were lazy because when she was 14 she used to come home from school, walk the dogs then dance all night. Turned out this translated to she would go out drinking and clubbing and a rage. My dad and uncle/aunt like to rant about how young people don't have any honesty or work ethic. My oldest and youngest uncle made moonshine. My middle uncle stole cars. My dad built moonshine running cars out of the parts and my aunt ran off with a 50-year-old sugar daddy at 15. It took the car stealing uncle going to jail to straighten them out. The most annoying thing they rant about is us not providing our kids the same life they had. My great-grandparents owned several thousand acres at the turn of the century. They passed down land, heirloom furniture, or thriving farm, etc. The next generation split that all up. Sold a lot of it to start their own business. The next generation the same. The last little plot of that is my mum's acre. Each generation inherited less and less. I will inherit nothing. I got no land to start my family with, unlike them. No heirloom furniture, no money, nothing. My family looks down on me and my cousins for struggling, pretending they worked harder than we do, but they'll never know how hard our generation works for our kids. Job hunting. That's great that this worked for you in the 80s, but it's the 2010s. Parents, well, you sent in the application 3 days ago. Why don't you give them a call and see what the status is? Employers like to see you taking initiative. Employer job site, please do not contact us regarding the status of your application. We will contact you if we wish to move forward with your application. I don't know. If I called in they might care a lot more about my apparent inability to follow instructions than my initiative for making a phone call. My boss refuses to believe I know how to read a map, like an actual folding paper map, drive a manual transmission car, change a tire, operate a VCR. Okay, r/petty revenge time. Steal your boss's manual transmission car, drive it somewhere, remove the tires, put the tires in the proper position in their parking spot, and have a map marked with where the car's up on blocks. And the kicker, record it on an old camcorder, like the ones where the VHS tape is inserted into the camera. That's slightly more than petty. Do it. My stepdad always rants about me not buying a home when he bought one at 21 years old. He always forgets to mention that it only cost him $22,000. Got yelled at when I quit a job in college that paid $8 an hour. I made $3 an hour when I was your age. I would have killed to make that. Something inflation. Quit after I realized the money I made in a month would barely pay for one of my textbooks, and I was taking 18 credits and didn't have enough time to actually read them. It always drove me nuts when my parents would complain about how we never spent any time outdoors, because back in their day they'd be tramping through the woods at all hours of the night. I wanted to do that, but I wasn't allowed outside. My dad used to tell us about how he and his sisters had to walk 6 kilometers to school each way in blinding blizzards, in 8 feet of snow, with only plastic bags to keep their feet warm, while somebody slapped them on the back of the head with a cold fish. And of course we believed him. Then one day at the farm, in the woods by the back 40, we found this old carriage on sled runners with a wood burning stove. We asked grandpa what it was I used to drive your dad and your aunts to school and that in the winter the old horses would pull it. We never believed another story about my dad's hardscrabble upbringing ever again. Car seats. I don't care if you drove around with a baby laying in the front seat of your car, you aren't taking my toddler anywhere without a car seat. All through my teenage years my mom would get mad that I didn't know how to cook, or clean something good enough, or use something correctly, usually gardening tools, etc. When I was your age I could run my family's B&B single-handed. Then when she was done telling me how stupid I was for not knowing, she'd take over and tell me to go away. Thanks for teaching me how to do it right. I was an honor roll student. It isn't that hard. My mother, who took arts in high school, never went to college, and arguing with me about how it's not difficult to keep grades up. I'm a physics major. Mom, you don't know anything about what I'm doing. Probably pretty common, but my dad's thing is always, when we were kids we didn't have all this technology you guys have, and didn't need to do this all day, said as he mimes holding a phone 2 inches from his face and aggressively tapping the invisible screen with one finger. Sure, Dad, because if you had the same technology available to you, everyone would have ignored it. My parents pride themselves on their ability to remember trivia and little bits of information. As someone who grew up with the internet, I've always had the ability to just reach into my pocket and look up any fact I needed to know. It's been an uphill struggle trying to convince my folks I'm not lazy because of this difference. My father will rant on about how he could easily get a job when he was my age. Tells me I'm lazy because of it. I'm currently 18 and I'm going to college in about a month and a half. Father keeps telling me to get a job, even though I've applied for tons. Yes, Dad, it's much harder for me to get a job nowadays because of my age range, kids in and out of college, etc. I've been trying for months but nobody has called or emailed me back. For some reason the older generation thinks that people can get jobs just as easily as they have. Architects. Back in my day we didn't have software. We had to draw everything by hand. Kids these days can't even draw a 2-point perspective rendered with markers. Also architects. Does anyone know how to plug my computer into the projector? Back in my day I had to go without glasses because my parents didn't believe I needed them. I got them when I was 17 with my own money and they were mad because they said I was wasting good cash. I still got straight A's without being able to read the board, said my mother, who was convinced that I was lying when I said I needed glasses at the beginning of high school. I bought my own glasses at 19 and still had straight A's through high school, too. Oh, how funny it is when history repeats itself. My dad woke up at 5 a.m. to work on the farm, then went to school, then came back and worked on the farm until dusk, then did homework until he finished and repeated the process. Gee, Dad, it's a shame we live in a suburb with no farm for you to make me work on. About 2 years ago I had an argument with my grandmother about showering and changing clothes too often. According to her, I should this maximum once a week, preferably even less frequently. She does this. I'm pretty sure she taught this my father as well, at least the clothes changing part. She stinks so you can smell her from 5 meters. Yet we, me, my brother and mother, are the bad guys, accusing her of unfair things and being wasteful. My dad loved to talk about how college was way harder back then, simply because he had to go to the library and go through the whole process of find the book and waiting if the book wasn't available. He thinks just because phones exist school is a breeze now. He fails to realize that he graduated with a smaller workload, virtually debt-free, and was able to open his own dentist office a year or 2 after he graduated. But sure, college is easy now because of our phones. Not my parents, but I work as a technician in a small theater in my hometown. One day I'm setting up for a children's show when a roughly 50 to 60-year-old guest comes into my sound booth. He also happens to be a sound technician and starts telling me stories of how he used to work concerts back in the day. He would complain about having to lug massive stereos and stack them as high as buildings, and how the mixing boards were the size of suitcases and only had 4 channels. Then he starts berating me about how easy my job is, because the boards are smaller and everything is digital now. Like, yeah. Times change. Get over it. Thank you for watching Ask Reddit. Please like, share and subscribe.